mystery that shook that small community. For years, the case went unsolved, but there were rumors and people talked, but no one was implicated in the disappearance until 2017, after the Up and Vanished podcast drew interest from around the world and put a spotlight on the case and on two men, Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes, two friends and classmates from the school where Tara taught. Tonight, we take a look at the evidence revealed in court and out of court and try to answer the question, what really happened to Tara Grinstead?
Good evening, I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments, and we are going to take a deep dive into this story, into this mystery. I mean, we're sitting here tonight, we still don't know the answer, but maybe by the end of the hour, we'll have a better idea of what really happened to Tara Grinstead. Those of you who've been watching my show through the years, I say this all the time, it's becoming one of my cliches, but when we talk about a trial and what's supposed to happen inside that courtroom, it is a search for the truth. That's why we have trials, to figure out exactly what happened, you know, what the truth is. Witnesses get up on the stand and they testify about what they saw, what they know, what they've seen. Then you see pieces of evidence introduced, you know, whether it's a photograph, a video, DNA, something else that has been tested by experts and scientists, and you have investigators testifying about what they found out. You have experts who can come in and give opinions about what the evidence means. And this is a process, but it's a process that also has to be tested and challenged through cross-examination. So witnesses don't just get up there and tell us what happened. No, then they have to face cross-examination. And we always say it's the true test to find out how strong is that evidence. And that's the process during a trial, all of it in a search to find out the truth. And then at the end of the case, the jury, it's their job. They tell us what the truth is in every case. You may or may not agree with them. We saw some of that in the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case. It happened to me down in Orange County, Florida. Won't say her name, but you know who I'm talking about. Sometimes we don't agree with what the jury said, but what they say is they tell us the truth of the case. With one caveat, when the jury comes back and says not guilty, that tells us nothing. That tells us nothing, because nothing has been proven to that degree of certainty that we need to get to the truth, which is beyond any and all reasonable doubt in a criminal case. What do they tell us when they come back and they say not guilty? Well, they say, number one, the case hasn't been proven, so whatever the prosecutor was saying happened, well, that's not the truth yet. Hasn't been proven. Hasn't met the test. Hasn't met the burden. And it's difficult when you have a verdict like that, if you're trying to understand what happened, and then the jury says, well, not guilty. Now, you're basically at ground zero at that point. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, so what happened here? Well, let's figure it out. Tara Grinstead is dead. Tara Grinstead was murdered. But what really happened to Tara Grinstead? As we said, tonight we're going to take a closer look at this case. Take a look at what happened during the trial of Ryan Duke. There have been two trials in this case, and at the end of these two trials, we still haven't answered the ultimate question, which is what really happened to Tara Grinstead. How was she killed and who killed her? And why? All those questions tonight are still not resolved, not by our system. So Joy Lim Nakrin, Court TV legal correspondent, has a look at the latest trial connected to the death, disappearance of Tara Grinstead, and has a look at what happened and who was testifying and what was going on in the trial of Ryan Duke.
Safe come to order.
Ask the jury to join us, please.
It's taken nearly 17 years for the suspected killer of teacher and former beauty queen Tara Grinstead to stand trial for murder.
You are considering the case of the state of Georgia versus Ryan Alexander Duke.
But many wonder if the state can prove its case without a body or known cause of death. Prosecutors claim Ryan Duke confessed to killing Grinstead in 2005 and burning her body with the help of his friend, Bo Dukes. But even with the incriminating statement, this is no open and shut case. Ryan's defense says Bo is the real killer who got to authorities first and shifted the blame to Ryan.
He is the reason that we are here. Ryan would not be sitting here if it wasn't for Bo Dukes.
What, if anything, would Bo say when called to the stand? Bo was convicted of lying to investigators when they first contacted him in 2016. In another police interview 1 year later, Bo said Ryan woke him the morning of October 23, 2005, and confessed to killing Grinstead. He then asked Bo to help burn her body.
Our position that we can prove this case against the defendant without putting Bo Dukes on the stand, mostly because he confessed.
Another critical witness for both sides, GBI Special Agent Jason Schaldell. He elicited the incriminating statements from Bo and Ryan within days of each other in February of 2017. As lead agent, he knows everything about the evidence, but there's still a lot he doesn't know about her death. Like how a glove with Ryan Duke's DNA got on Tara Grinstead's front yard. According to police, that puts Duke at her home on the night she was murdered. But what that tells us about her murder is still a question. Could that spell trouble for prosecutors? Heath Dykes was one of the first people to check on Grinstead's home after she went missing. The married police captain was having an affair with Grinstead in 2005. That was a secret. Did it make him a suspect? He was one of the last people who spoke to Grinstead and among the first to grow worried when she went missing. But perhaps the most consequential witness was the defendant himself. Ryan Duke disavowed his alleged confession. He says he was afraid of Bo Dukes and he had an alibi. He said he passed out after a night of heavy drinking. Vouching for him are his aunt and her partner, Jerry Williams. Williams owned the trailer where Ryan lived and where Bo was staying in 2005. In addition to confirming that Ryan had passed out in the bathroom, Williams said he saw Bo leaving the trailer in a truck to parts unknown.
A lot of evidence, a lot of testimony, but at the end of the day, what does the jury say? They tell us nothing. They tell us nothing at the end if the case hasn't been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, we're going to talk a lot about Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes tonight, but I want to begin and focus on Tara Grinstead. She is the one who disappeared in 2005. She's the one who's never been found, and she is also the one that this case ultimately is about. Court TV crime and justice reporter Matt Johnson was in Ocilla, Georgia today outside of Tara Grinstead's house and has more for us tonight.
Hi, Vinnie. We're here in Ocilla, and right here behind me on Park Street, that was Tara Grinstead's home. 17 years ago, her best friend walked through the house with police, pointing out what she saw miss in the home. Today, she sat down with us, and she pointed out what she misses most about Tara. How long did you know Tara?
We started friends like basically when we were younger, you know, young kids, and then we got to be really close friends when we were in middle school and high school. So
She encouraged you to become a teacher.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to a nurse or child psychologist or something different, and she was a teacher. She's a couple years older than me, and she was like, just do teaching. You'll love it. And I did. And here I am, 23 years later.
You know, we hear a lot about what happened to her, but I really want to focus some time on who she was and what made her such a loving person. We hear about her being a beauty queen. Talk to me about that. That was the catalyst for her going to school, right? Yes. Or it was helping her.
She won a beauty pageant, and then just from there, it was just like she loved it. She enjoyed it. She got a lot of confidence, and it was what she needed. So she taught herself how to sing. And
was she good?
Oh yeah, she was good. I could have never done that. I don't know how, but she just developed this good singing. I mean, she was just very natural at it. And so she started doing pageants with talent in it. And when you do that in Georgia, you can get scholarship money, which in her mind was the way to go to college, and it would be less debt that she would have. And so she had it wasn't just to do beauty pageants and spend money. To her, it was to gain scholarship money.
Did she want to be a principal, or what was the end goal?
Well, the end goal was principal, or just, superintendent, some kind of curriculum, more leadership.
And Maria wasn't the only person we met up with that had walked through this house just hours after Tara had gone missing. Earlier, we met up with Andy Polk. He ran the Find Tara Grinstead website pages, and he tells us what he found inside this house. You went to Tara's house. Talk to me about that experience. This is after law enforcement went to the home, right?
Sure. Yeah. After law enforcement and the GBI went to the home, we were privy by her family to go in and look at it exactly the way the GBI left it. Whether I guess they took the comfort off the beds, things like that. But it was kind of eerie going in. You want to look around and see if you see anything that might could help, and took a lot of pictures, but they're useless because they came in later. But
what stuck out to you? Did you see the phone in the bathroom? Did you see anything out of place?
The thing that stuck out to me was that the lamp was working. And I looked at the GBI pictures and the lamp was sitting up straight. It wasn't working, but this is 17 years ago. I can't really tell now from hearsay from what I saw. It was so long ago. But I think the clock was on the floor. I think it was a little bit of sign of maybe some struggle, maybe.
Back out here in front of Tara's home, Andy told me that he noticed at the time that her car was dirty, possibly covered in mud. He noticed that the front seat was back, and he also noticed pine needles or possibly a branch in the grill of her car. But the jury never heard this because he never testified. And what became of this? Well, the neighbor, he says, washed the car to do a nice thing. They were hoping that Tara would come back home soon. Vinny?
Pat Johnson down in Osceola. Okay, got some very special guests tonight joining us in Atlanta, Georgia. Co-counsel for Ryan Duke, Evan Gibbs is with us, joining us by phone. And in Marietta, Georgia, lead counsel for Ryan Duke, Ashley Merchant. Ashley, great to see you. It's been a while. And I want to start with Evan, though, Ashley, if you don't mind, because Evan, my understanding is you are from Osceola. You went to the high school. The same high school as Ryan Duke and Bo Duke's, the same high school that Tara taught in?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, Miss Grinstead was she was one of my teachers in high school. I had her in 9th and 11th grade when I was in school there. And
what can you tell us? Because before we get into Ryan Duke and Bo Duke's and evidence and everything, what are your memories about Tara Grinstead and your thoughts about, the disappearance? Because as we sit here tonight, this is still an unsolved case.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that she was a really phenomenal teacher. She was a great person. Everyone really liked her. She was one of those teachers, you reflect back on your academic career, and there are some teachers that sort of stand out as the ones that really seem to genuinely care about the students, and she was one of those. And, I certainly thought very highly of her, and I know that all the other students that she taught did as well. So she was just she was a really sort of a, ray of sunshine in the high school, if you will. We all really thought a lot of her, and it's a real tragedy, her disappearance and everything that happened.
Ashley, let me ask you, when I say the name Tara Grinstead, like I know there's the trial, and folks have watched it here on Court TV and understand the work that you've done. But when I say Tara Grinstead, what thoughts come to your mind? What did you learn about Tara Grinstead with your close involvement representing the man accused of her murder?
I learned that she was very well respected in the community. I learned that she had become really a part of this community. She came from another small town a few hours away, about an hour and a half away, but had moved down to this town and had really taken into the community and was very loved and very well liked. I think that she took a lot of time with her students and, just had become a member of the community. Even though she hadn't been raised there, she'd become a member of the community, and they were very upset about what happened. I learned personally that this was a very tight-knit community. They welcomed me, and so I can imagine how much they welcomed her. I was not from that area. She's not from that area, but this community really did embrace me, and so I'm sure that the same thing happened with her.
Evan, what was it like, though, for you? This is an interesting position, right? Tara Grinstead is your teacher, someone you liked, you respected. Ryan Duke is accused of murdering her and destroying her remains. From your perspective, explain that to us, because a lot of folks that's what they're thinking right now. Is like, wait a minute, he knew her, but he represented the man accused of murdering her?
Yeah, that's right, Vinny. And I can tell you that, for me, this really was a very emotional case, and it was, it was a difficult case, having known Miss Grinstead, to be a part of it. But I can tell you that I fully believed Ryan Duke's story from the very beginning. From the first time that I talked to him, from the first time that I heard that he was implicated in her death, I was really shocked that it would have been Ryan, because I knew him in high school. And so I was really shocked. And I did not want the wrong person to go to jail for the murder. And that's what motivated me to join with Ashley and John and work on this case.
Ashley, let me ask you about, from your perspective, I mean, this was a huge investment of time. My understanding is that it's not like you were getting paid for this, right?
Right. It was a huge investment of time. And I think at the time that we took it on, we didn't quite realize what an investment of time it was. When we accepted the case, it was almost 4 years ago, pre-COVID. So things definitely changed professionally, personally. Things change over the years, especially with the pandemic hitting, and just life moving on. Our kids are older, and so it's a lot different. We're in a lot different position than we were back when we took the case. But I'm very glad that we did, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't change my mind. I wouldn't go back and change anything. Just like Evan said, we believe in Ryan. John and I both felt very strongly that Ryan was the wrong person, and we both have a very strong sense of justice and a strong sense of what's right and what's wrong, and that everybody should have access to their day in court. And we believed in Ryan, and we wanted to make sure that he had a lawyer that believed in him and that was willing to fight for him. And he was willing to be patient with us. There were some things that we set out early on in the case that we said, we're going to need to fight these if we have to, all the way to appeal, things like funding. And he was very patient with us. We continued the case once with COVID. He was very nervous for the jurors, which I thought was very compassionate of him. He was very concerned for the community. We had a trial date set, and there was a COVID spike in the area. They had to close some of the high schools. Some of the different schools in the local high school had gone to virtual. And we had a team meeting and said, is it fair to really call jurors in at this point when their kids aren't even going to school? And he said, no, I don't want to put them in that position. I will wait. And he sat in jail for almost another year because of that decision, because he did not want to put those jurors in harm's way. And I just think that shows the type of person that he is.
Okay. Evan, Ashley, staying with us. We have a lot to get to. When we come back, though, we're going to be talking about their client, Ryan Duke. What is the evidence? What was the evidence that was used against Ryan Duke in the courtroom? That is next.
Today.
I understand I'm going to prison. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, moving forward, I want to make you aware of your rights. I have to. I waive my right to a lawyer. Okay. Well, I'm going to read that form to you and let you do that. Yes, sir.
Okay, Ryan Duke, did he confess? Did he confess to the murder of Tara Grinstead? I mean, that's a big part of the trial and the alleged evidence that implicated him, that proved that he did it, according to prosecutors. Let me put up on the screen three, I guess, big issues here when you're talking about evidence against Ryan Duke. One, this alleged confession, the latex glove found outside of Tara's home, and the, quote, guilty knowledge payphone call. Now, I'm going to bring back in my guests, and we've got some new guests joining us as well. Still with us, Evan Gibbs, Ashley Merchant, both represented Ryan Duke. I know they've got a take on the evidence, I understand it, but also joining us in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Phil Holloway, who knows a lot about this case, former police officer from Ocilla, great attorney, and has been deeply involved in everything here. Also with us, I needed someone from outside of Georgia, someone to be neutral in all of this. So we've got Mike King with us, retired police commander and host of the Profiling Evil podcast. Okay, let me start here with the confession. Let's take another listen to another piece of Ryan Duke's alleged confession.
And why her, of all the people, why her? I've asked myself that same question. I mean, did you know it was whose house it was before you got there? No, sure. I don't think so. I mean, if y'all had a relationship or there was something else there, that's okay. She had relationships with lots of other people, including other students. That's not a secret. No, sir, I didn't. I never even had a conversation with her. Okay. You know. So you hit her and she fell, and you think that at that point she was probably gone. I don't know. I mean, because you had to go. Y'all both went back there, and she was still not moving. No, sir, I went back by myself. Okay. I said she would check her pulse, and there wasn't one. Okay. Okay. So did you immediately? You said you left and you had to come back. Yes. So I'm assuming the door was still probably not locked. Or did you have to break back in again, or? No, sir. I mean, I don't remember having to, so I don't think I locked it. I mean, I'm not even sure if I shut the door. Okay.
All right, Phil Holloway, I want to start with you. Did Ryan Duke confess to this murder?
Well, great to be with you, Vinny. Listen, I was in the courtroom the day that Ryan Duke testified under oath and gave that version of what happened. And I've also heard the alleged confession many times over and over. And I can tell you, the way that it came across to me, what the state called a confession, Vinny, always felt like maybe a blend of fact and a little fiction mixed in. I've always had questions because certain things about it didn't make sense. You know, this is the whole burglary gone bad theory that was presented by the state. And we said this on Payne Lindsay's Up and Vanished podcast back several years ago, that, you know, we just didn't think that rang true. I mean, look, they said that he traveled for what, 15, 20 miles in the middle of the night between Ben Hill County and Ocilla, Georgia. And look, this is in the middle of like nowhere. They said that he was driving to get a fix for drugs. There's no drug dealers out there on the street corner for him to get a fix from. They said that he was going from house to house doing petty burglaries, stealing $20 here and there. There were no unsolved burglaries during that crime period, certainly that time period, certainly none that could be attributed to Ryan Duke. So I've always had questions about this. It sounded to me like what he gave to law enforcement back in 2017 was a little bit of truth and a little bit of fiction. Some of it we found out at trial, Vinny, like the jimmying the lock with a credit card was actually introduced into the conversation by law enforcement. This thing had earmarks of a false confession written all over it. We know that false confessions are real. Commonly, people don't know that. So Ashley did a great job by getting the lead detective on the case to concede that false confessions are real, and that's why they're trained in certain interrogation techniques is to prevent a false confession.
Yeah,
so
and we've seen it. We've seen it here
on against interest.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a false confession here on Court TV. I saw it with myself, and we knew it was false. It was the Skylar Richardson case. Another piece of evidence, Mike King, the latex glove found outside of Tara Grinstead's home. If you've got a glove, like there was another case with a glove. I can't remember which one it was. It was out in California, Mike. Do you remember? There was a case with a glove and DNA.
White Bronco issue.
Yeah. Why is it that a glove outside of the scene of the disappearance of Tara Grinstead with DNA is not enough?
Yeah, this thing is really interesting, and kudos to the defense team. I mean, this is what we like in America, is the fact that we have a system that allows us to challenge these things. I'm still scratching my head, and I don't agree with the defense counsel that this is a whole lot of stuff being added in. I mean, there are things that are just so compelling, including his testimony, I might add. But it is so compelling to me that there is this, whether alleged or it actually happened, this confession that it was done under a Miranda warning. He was warned that it would be used against him. He walked in saying, I know I'm going to prison. Of course, I don't know the exact timing of each of these things. Then there's a glove found outside, and I know there's question about the timing of when that glove was found, but it has his DNA and another unknown male and the victim's DNA. That's pretty darn compelling. And then, of course, I go back to that phone call too, of what's the chances of something like that happening. And with all of that doubt and confusion that I have, I still have to salute that defense team. So thanks for letting me join in.
Oh, absolutely. So, all right, Ashley, I saw reactions through all of it. So she's like chomping. She's like, come on, let me in there. Let me in there. I can explain everything. Well, explain to us why this wasn't a confession, why the DNA in a latex glove is not compelling evidence that he was there, and why would his DNA be in a latex glove? Is he a surgeon? And then making this guilty knowledge payphone call from the G&G convenience store, and no one was told about this phone call, yet he knew about it. Why would he know about this phone call if it was never revealed by investigators?
Right. Well, and that was the state's case, essentially. And so when we went in, we had to determine how to sort of peel away the onion on those pieces. And I think Phil Holloway's used that peel away the onion example before, and that's what we had to do. So first, let's talk about the confession, the false confession. What we started out doing was picking apart every single statement and who introduced it first. So that was really important in this case, because the statement did not match the evidence. And so who put those vital pieces of evidence into Ryan's mouth? Who told Ryan what he did? And it was Jason Shadell. It was the GBI agent. Over and over again, every single piece of information that he wanted Ryan to say, he kept introducing, and he kept on and on. And Ryan said, I think we had counted 24 times, he said, I don't know. So Agent Shadell would ask him a question, and he'd say, I don't know, or I don't remember, or something like that. And then they would try again, and he would ask again, well, didn't you bring this, or didn't you do this? And so it was one of those things where it's like having kids, you know, if you ask them the same thing enough times, they're going to finally give you the answer that you want. Ryan was the same way. If he was asked the same thing over and over and over again, clearly he was not giving the right answer that law enforcement wanted. And so he finally would start to sort of switch his testimony, switch his statement, and say what he wanted, what the GBI agent wanted him to say. The other thing that really was important was that it didn't match the evidence. Nobody believed the confession that Ryan, a small in stature person, could hit Miss Grinstead one time with his fist and kill her and leave no blood in that house. It just did not make sense. So you had a statement, a confession that just did not make sense. Then you talk about the glove. So the glove was sort of their big, big piece of evidence. The
yes, a glove with DNA. Yes, that's big.
So here's what we did. And here's what the evidence showed. So she was last seen Saturday night. We brought in every single witness we could find that was there on Sunday and did not see that glove. They all took the stand and said, I did not see that glove. And you saw earlier in your show how small this front yard was. They would have seen the glove. It was a tight, small area. Heath Dykes, the officer who she was dating, he was the chief of the police in a local division. He was at her house. He was checking all around her home. He was checking the doors. He touched her car to see if it was cold. He was doing an investigation, and he didn't see this glove. So this was Sunday night, Sunday around midnight. He did all of this and didn't see that glove. What does that tell you? It tells you that glove was not there that Sunday.
So
that
wait. So
what
does that mean? What does that mean? You know, trial search for the truth. Does that mean that the only way the glove gets there is if somebody plants it there? Someone's framing Ryan Duke that quickly? They're framing Ryan Duke? Why would anyone frame Ryan Duke, who's at that point just a local drug addict, right? Pretty much, like he has a drug addiction, right?
Right, he does. He's got a drug addiction, and you know.
So
honestly,
who's framing him? Who's framing him?
Bo Dukes.
Bo Dukes.
Okay. We see where this is all going. I get where it's going. How did he know about the phone call? Are you going to tell me that Bo?
Because he made it.
He made the phone call. Okay,
he made the phone
but
call.
nobody knew about the phone call. You say the phone. Why did he make that phone call? Why was he at the G&G convenience store?
So he didn't have a phone at the time, and this is back in 2005.
Right,
so
we didn't all have these. Gotcha.
Right, it seems really unbelievable. And I had to go back and I actually had to do some Google detective work to try and figure out how, caller ID worked back then. And I couldn't really remember how 411 worked because I hadn't used it in so long. But he stopped at that convenience store and used 411 to try and call her because Bo had woken him up and said, I killed Miss Grinstead, or he said, I killed Tara. And Ryan didn't believe him. So he drove towards the town where he knew she lived, pulled over at the convenience store, used the payphone, and called and asked to, try to connect to her home.
How did he know where
she lived?
She was okay. How did he know? He
knew that she lived in. He knew she lived in Ocilla, but he didn't know where she lived in Ocilla.
Right.
So that was a big distinction.
Where was he driving from? Ben Hill County.
Fitzgerald.
Okay.
Yes, Ben Hill County. Yep.
Did they have phones there, or they only have phones where he had to drive to? Right, Mike? I mean, I know it's 2000, but people had phones in other places. You didn't have to drive to a convenience store out of your way to like, you don't have to drive closer to someone to call them on the phone, do you? Back in the olden days, like in 2005? Rhetorical question.
I wasn't sure if you were asking me or Mike. I mean,
I was asking Mike, but yeah.
Well, let me tell you. I mean, yeah, I think those are the big gaping holes that maybe the prosecution didn't do a good job in closing. One of the early arguments was, well, it's 15 minutes away and nobody would go over there to burglarize or try to buy dope. Well, for some reason, he found a reason to go over there. It was to make a phone call.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. But that, again, they got to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Ashley's not happy with me right now. Look
exactly.
At that. You can tell. I got a body language expert who's telling me. Okay, we got to take a quick break. Everyone's staying with us. Bo Duke, that name keeps coming up, right? Bo Dukes. He's the plural. Ryan Duke is the one who was on trial. We're going to talk about the evidence against Bo Dukes. Is it stronger than the evidence against Ryan Duke? And what did he do when he walked into the courtroom in the middle of the trial? That's next.
just for you.
What did Bo Duke say to you when he woke you up that morning?
He said he killed Tara. He said he had killed somebody. That's no reason enough to be scared of somebody.
That's Ryan Duke at his trial, implicating, I guess, his former friend Bo Dukes for the murder that he was charged with. And that is some, I guess, potential evidence against Bo Dukes for the murder of Tara Grinstead. Let me put up on the screen some other potential evidence against Bo Dukes. Bo's uncle confronted him about igniting fires the week that Tara went missing. DNA testing could not rule out Bo Dukes as the contributor to a third unknown male DNA profile found on the glove. That's curious. And there were bone fragments found on the family's farm. Still with us tonight, Ashley Merchant, Evan Gibbs. They represented Ryan Duke, Phil Holloway, and Mike King also with us. Bo Dukes came into the courtroom. Let me show everyone what happened.
Will you state your name for the record?
On the advice of counsel, I'll be invoking my Fifth Amendment right not to provide testimony.
That was it. All right. No, Evan Gibbs, was that in front of the jury?
It was. It wasn't.
So the jury saw a man, Bo Dukes, who you're pointing the finger at, come into the courtroom, get up on the stand, and not even give his name without taking the fifth. Okay, that's powerful moment. Powerful moment. Let me ask you though, Evan, you're from Osceola. Do you know Bo?
I did know Bo. I grew up with Ryan and Bo. I was on the tennis team with Ryan and had classes with him. We had a sort of the same group of friends. Our friend groups overlapped, and so I saw them, both in school and out of school at parties. And Bo Duke's house was one. He held a lot of parties at his house, and so that was a place a lot of folks in our friend group would go, on the weekends after school, things like that. So I did know Bo as well.
Does it shock you? Because you believe he did it, right? I mean, does that shock you that Bo did this, according to, I guess, the evidence?
I'll say in response to that I believe Ryan's story.
Okay. It's fair enough. I don't want to put you on the spot, Evan. I don't want to get you in trouble when you go back to the high school reunion, whenever. Phil, let me ask you, Phil. Phil, you said Bo Dukes. I mean, loudly, I heard you. You said it. What is the real evidence against Bo Dukes, though? I'm looking at this evidence. This is evidence about setting fires. I mean, we know that we believe the body was destroyed. There's been an admission about that. Where's the evidence of the actual murder by Bo Dukes?
Well, so Bo, having looked at Bo Dukes and Ryan Duke, I'm convinced that law enforcement has the right two guys. The whole question has always been who is the killer and who is merely the helper. Okay, that's really the big question that this case has always been about. But notwithstanding the alleged confession, if you just look at the individuals and you look at things like Brooke Sheridan's statement to the GBI way back in 2017, where she said that Bo was having sexual fantasies involving rape and domination and all sorts of things like that. He's released on bail. What does he do? He goes to Warner Robins, Georgia, where he's charged with the violent rape and kidnapping at gunpoint of two women there while he's out on bail for the charges he's alleged to have committed with regard to Tara Grinstead's death in Ben Hill County. And he's also a convicted liar. Okay, he's convicted in a court of law in Wilcox County for lying about his involvement in this very case. So if you just look at the two individuals and you say which one is probably maybe the more likely suspect, it just keeps going back, in my view, to Bo Dukes. And from the defense perspective, the defense did a great job because, look, their job is not, as we know, to prove anybody's innocent, but to create reasonable doubt. There's no better reasonable doubt walking in that courtroom than Bo Dukes, who will not even answer his name, Vinnie, without taking the fifth. Now, if I have any criticisms of Ashley, my first question would not have been, what's your name? I would have said, isn't it true, Bo Dukes, that you really killed Tara Grinstead? And have him say the fifth, I'll take the fifth in front of the jury on that. That would have been my first question.
All
I
right.
never thought he was going to plead the fifth on his name.
On his
I thought
name.
I'd get maybe 10 questions out, and I could get to that, you know. So my first like 10 questions were all kind of softballs that wouldn't invoke the fifth. My personal favorite, which my husband John wrote for me, was how did you get here today? Hoping that he was going to say the sheriffs had to drive me here.
Well, it looks like he's wearing a sailor suit, by the way. I don't understand those outfits at the jail. But Mike King, we only have like 15 seconds. Looking at this case, Bo Dukes versus Ryan Duke, which do you think there's more evidence against? Who?
You know, the first thing I keep going back to is there's a lot of people assuming that this woman died from blunt force trauma, a fist to the face or something. We don't know how she died. And there are allegations out there. It was even brought up in just the discussion just a moment ago about possible abuses that occurred and other motivations for why those people came together in space and time. To me, there's a lot of pieces of this puzzle that were just kind of left vague and unknown. I think it's really important when Bo gets up and says, Ryan told me he strangled her. That's pretty important. It's pretty important when I think about the fact that most people don't say, I did something. Instead, they'd be screaming, no, I didn't do that. I was scared to death and I helped my friend. And all of that said, Vinnie, the guy's not guilty.
Yep. All right. We're out of time for now. We will return to this case again. We have to. Evan Gibbs, thank you so much. Ashley Merchant, thank you as well. Mike King, appreciate it. Phil Holloway, stay where you are. I've got one final question for you when we come back. Some new charges for Ryan Duke, by the way. We're going to deal with that when we return.
that you can no longer be prosecuted in Ben Hill County related to this crime, don't you?
No, ma'am, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that. Before you testified today, you never discussed the fact that you'd be admitting to a felony.
No, ma'am, it didn't come up. I'm just trying to tell the truth.
So that's Ryan Duke on the stand. And what he's doing is he's admitting to helping his friend Bo Dukes destroy and get rid of Tara Grinstead's body in a different county from where he's being charged with the murder of Tara Grinstead. So his story all along is, Bo did it, I didn't do it, but I helped him after the fact in another county. And the prosecutor there is saying, well, you know, you're admitting to that now, but you know you can't be prosecuted for that. And then this happened. New charges against Ryan Duke in Ben Hill County, concealing the death of another, hindering apprehension or punishment of a criminal, concealment of facts, 2 counts, and tampering with evidence, 2 counts. So what exactly is going on here? And is this the end of the case, or is this not the end of the case? I mean, can Ryan Duke be prosecuted for new charges other than the murder that he was found not guilty of? Phil Holloway still with us, great attorney in Georgia, knows his case inside out. This is getting more complicated, more and more complicated, Phil, but what do you think happens here? Does Ryan Duke end up being prosecuted now for things that he admitted during his murder trial that happened in another county?
Yeah, Vinny, there's no defense to these new charges on the facts. He's come into court and he's testified under oath that they're all true. And look, I'm no advocate for Ryan Duke or what he did. I'm an advocate for the process, the criminal justice process, the sanctity and the dignity of the process. This, to me, in my opinion, smells like prosecutorial sour grapes. I do believe that these charges are barred by the statute of limitations. If they wanted to charge Ryan Duke in Ben Hill County for his conduct in Ben Hill County, they should have done it at the same time they indicted Bo Dukes for those things in Ben Hill County several years ago. Look, law enforcement, despite what this new indictment says, and I want to make sure I get to that, law enforcement has known about this. They've known the names of Ryan Duke. They've known the names of Bo Duke. They've known about him since 2005. No fewer than 6 law enforcement agencies, by my count, has known about the crimes that are at issue in this very indictment, in addition to the 2005 report made by the Irwin County Sheriff's Department that had the names of Bo Dukes, Ryan Duke, and the burning of Tara in Ben Hill County. They had that in their documents. Additional reports were made in 2007, 2008, 2016, and on February 7th of 2017, when Bo Duke's girlfriend laid it all out for Agent Shadell, the GBI, including taking him out to the burn site. And then we get this indictment, and here's the problem. It alleges that the statute of limitations was told, meaning the clock was stopped, until February the 19th of 2017. What happened on that day? Well, that was the day that Bo Dukes goes in with his lawyer and gives a proffer session and blames the whole thing on Ryan Duke. So the grand jury, it says in their indictment that the statute of limitations is told because the crime, they say, was unknown to law enforcement until February 19th, 2017. Vinny, that is demonstrably not true. We have police reports. We have sheriff's office reports. We have evidence right out of law enforcement's case file
that they knew
the entire scenario was known back in 2005. How did the grand jury get this date, and why? Did somebody ask a witness to say something that wasn't true? Who prepared this indictment? There needs to be an investigation by some authority that's capable of finding out what happened in that grand jury room and why this grand jury was told that law enforcement did not know about this until February 19th of 2017, when we know for a fact that is not true.
So we only literally have like 15 seconds here. So is someone going to get away with murder at the end of the day here?
Yes, someone will get it. Neither one of these gentlemen will ever be tried for murder. So no matter what, we will never see a murder conviction of any person for the murder and death of Tara Grinstead.
Unbelievable. Phil Holloway, great to see you again. Appreciate the insight and your time tonight. When we come back, folks, we're going to take a trip back in time, like last week. Johnny Depp and TikTok. Unbelievable development next.
Before.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard became known as the first TikTok trial, a case where people viewed footage from the trial literally billions and billions of times on social media.
You're a lot bigger than Amber, correct? Physically?
I wouldn't say that.
And now, guess who has joined TikTok? Johnny Depp. Tonight, we take a look at his video and the response from his ex, Amber Heard. Did she re-defame Johnny again? We take a look. Meanwhile, in Orlando, Florida, the next live trial getting ready to start on Court TV. A man marries his stepdaughter. They raise a family. They have an altercation, and he dies. Is it murder, self-defense, or a heart attack? We take a look at Florida versus Danielle Redlick.
Okay. Did you just find him? No, actually. It happened last night.
And on the docket tonight in Broward County, Florida, the Parkland school shooting. We are 2 months into jury selection, and the shooter's attorneys want out. We have the latest in the case where the jury must decide life or death for the admitted mass murderer.
I plead guilty, 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 guilty.
I accept your plea of guilty. I find that you are alert and intelligent, that you understand the nature of the charges, that you understand the consequences of entering into the plea.
Plus, in Hartford, Michigan, a 12-year-old boy holds up a convenience store, and it's all caught on video. Tonight's 13th juror question: what should happen to this 12-year-old? Get ready. This hour of closing arguments starts right now.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us here in Closing Arguments. And we're going to get to that video a little bit later on this hour. 12 years old. Wait till you hear the response of the clerk as all this is happening. I don't know where this world is going. Let's get back, though, to where we were last week, right? Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. And like I said in the open here, this really became the first TikTok trial. I mean, I've been covering cases for decades, and you know, cases have been popular. People have tweeted about them. They've gone on Facebook, but this one took on a life of its own. And I mean, there were billions and billions and billions of views of footage from that trial that people were watching on TikTok. And now we're learning that the reason, you know, people were watching one of the reasons they're watching the trial was Johnny Depp, obviously. Now Johnny Depp has gone on TikTok, and this is his video that he posted. He's playing music in the video, so I can't play that for you, but it's some Bob Marley music, and he's showing you highlights. But he did put a comment when he posted this video, so I'm going to read that comment to you. So these are the words from Johnny Depp. To all of my most treasured, loyal, and unwavering supporters, we've been everywhere together. We have seen everything together. We have walked the same road together. We did the right thing together, all because you cared. And now we will all move forward together. You are, as always, my employers. And I, once again, am whittled down to no way to say thank you other than just by saying thank you. So, thank you. My love and respect, JD. There you have it, folks. That was his message. And again, this is the video that he posted on TikTok, Johnny Depp. He's not big on social media. You go on his Instagram account, he has a few posts here and there. Now he's got, you know, one post on TikTok, probably seen by billions by the time we're on the air here. By the way, Amber Heard's spokesperson did respond. And once again, a response from Amber Heard is always, I think, dangerous. I mean, her response after the verdict, from my perspective, was as defamatory, if not more defamatory, than the Washington Post op-ed. I mean, she talked about the same exact issues, only more directly focusing them on Johnny Depp. Here's the response to Johnny Depp posting on TikTok. As Johnny Depp says he's moving forward, women's rights are moving backward. The verdict's message to victims of domestic violence is, be afraid to stand up and speak out. Wow. Wow. All right. We've got a lot to talk about tonight when it comes to Johnny Depp, TikTok, the way this trial went down, the response of Amber Heard, and some other developments involving Camille Vasquez and Ben Chu. But let's bring in our think tank tonight. Joining us in Seattle, Washington, trial attorney Ann Bremner is with us. And in West Palm Beach, Florida, former police lieutenant and trial attorney Rick King. Great to see you both.
Great to see you.
Let's begin here with the concept here, Ann Bremner, of the first TikTok trial. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That billions and billions and billions of views of parts of that trial were viewed around the world on TikTok.
I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing in terms of public access to our court spinning. I mean, it's just kind of amazing that so many people were so interested in the case. But like my mom said, I talked to her over the weekend, and she was appalled that anyone under the age of 30 was watching any of this, thought it was very harmful, or under the age of 25 or whatever. But I think it's great. And I think the fact that he joined peace and tune with his fans and his supporters, and I think it was a perfect way for him to thank everybody, because everybody on TikTok has been thanking him for what he's done in his career and how much they've enjoyed him as an actor.
Rick King, I'm going to defend TikTok, and the reason I'm defending TikTok, and I'm not very prolific on TikTok, no self-interest here, is that people are watching a trial, and whether it's bits and pieces or the whole trial, these people are watching our system of justice working. And my guess is people that got interested because of what they saw on TikTok then had the opportunity to tune in and watch the actual trial play out on court TV. And the reason I think it's important is the same reason watching any trial I think is important, because people don't pay attention to the third branch of government. You know, you turn on other networks, it's 24/7 about the executive branch, about Congress, blah, 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 blah. Never talk about what's happening in our courtrooms across America, how our system even works. And this is the part of the system that probably most directly touches most citizens. That's my spiel. Your thoughts about, the way this trial played out on TikTok?
You know what? So, Vinny, my opinion of it is that we're in a world where the introduction of social media and how many people have access to things that are global now. You know, you see things. We watched this trial play out on social media, and then from that, just as you said, people become interested, and then they get to watch our system, how it really works. And if we can use those things to get people engaged in how the system really works and cause them attention to the good parts and in some parts the inequities of our system, I think that's always important. We lack as a nation somewhat engagement. This is an opportunity for people to, no matter how they get engaged, to further engage and to learn more about our system and see how it works. And I think that's important. So I'm okay with it.
And this case really touched two very important issues. I mean, number one, domestic violence, right? And then the other part, of course, is defamation, First Amendment, freedom of speech, what you can and can't say, because everyone who's on social media is throwing their opinions out there and they're talking about other people. All of a sudden, they're like, well, wait a minute, I better be just a little more careful about who I accuse of what, because I could end up like Amber Heard on the other end of a $15 million verdict. And so, these lessons I think we all have to learn.
Well, exactly. And I think also, when I was watching, I watched a lot of TikTok during this trial because I found it really educational. People really knew the case. They really knew about, I love the objection hearsay. I mean, there were a lot of tutorials about hearsay, on TikTok, but also learning about what does the First Amendment mean? What is protected speech? What isn't? What is actionable? All those kinds of things. And people are still talking on TikTok about this trial. I read someone said on TikTok, can they just start the trial over with and can I watch it all over again? I mean, I think that's awesome. I kind of want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you?
Well, you will be able to watch it again on demand for free on courttv.com. Thank you very much.
There you go.
I want to bring in another guest joining us in our think tank tonight. You'll recognize him. We're joining us by phone, Kevin Goff, criminal defense attorney, also represented William Roddy Bryan in the Ahmaud Arbery case, joining us from St. Simon Islands in Georgia. Kevin, great to reconnect with you. I am very interested in your thoughts about what we just experienced with the Johnny Depp trial and the way billions and billions of views of what was happening in that courtroom, people were watching on TikTok. Good thing, bad thing. What do you think, Kevin?
I think it was a bad thing for justice. I think it's bad for America. You know, I do a lot of domestic work as well as criminal defense work, and I was troubled by it. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I didn't see how Johnny Depp's legal team could win this case. It felt like they were both abusive to each other. I just don't think I don't think we have a cause of action or a tort that adequately describes what Amber Heard did to Johnny Depp, because it was wrong. But, I mean, it seemed like they both abused each other, even though she was probably responsible for 90% of it. But I was a little bit surprised by the verdict and by the amount. I was kind of expecting if they gave a verdict, it would be $1. And I think the difference is the public media circus that surrounded the trial. No disrespect to Court TV, your coverage has been great. But overall, I mean, you're seeing millions of people on TikTok obsessing over every little detail of the trial and not really seeing the bigger picture. So I think Amber Heard has some good points to make, although, you know, clearly she was not a good person or a good guy in this case.
You know, Kevin, it's interesting. You used the term media circus. I was there in the beginning of the case and at the end of the case. And what made this trial different is that it wasn't a media circus. When I was there the first week, it was Court TV, a couple other outfits, a couple from overseas were there. But it was a trial of people. People showed up at the courthouse. You know, some of these cases, there's more members of the media than there are members of the public who go inside a courtroom, who go to see what's happening, who go to the courthouse. This was the opposite, which is what I saw reflected in the TikTok response, is that the people were interested in this, Rick King.
Yeah, Kevin, I just want to push back a little bit on Kevin, because notwithstanding the verdict, because to that extent, I really agree with you. I think there was enough blame to go around for anyone, and I wouldn't have been surprised if the verdict would come out, each person gets $1. But I think anytime we open up the doors to the courthouse, and no matter what the vehicle, I think it's important for the public to see those things and to understand the inner workings of a trial and how things go, and to see the prosecution and the defense, or in this case, the plaintiff and the respondent. To get a taste of that and to see the process in action, I think that's important. I thought both of the lawyers on all sides, I think did a stellar job. You know, some lawyers obviously did better than others, but I think it's important for the public to see that.
Now, I want to get to the response by Amber Heard's spokesperson. This response, as I look at it, as Johnny Depp says he's moving forward, women's rights are moving backward. The verdict's message to victims of domestic violence is be afraid to stand up and speak out. I mean, Ann Bremner, is that not kind of what she was alluding to in the Washington Post op-ed that cost her $15 million in a verdict? Why on earth would you basically repeat the statement that you were just sued over, lost about, in response to this? I don't understand it. Is there any sense of self-awareness here?
Zero. I mean, it was astonishing. I thought the first statement, like you said, Vinny, was clearly could be thought to be defamatory, as is this one. And you know what? It's like that dog won't hunt, as the old trial lawyers used to say. Her lawyer's been out on the circuit, putting out the same message. This is a message she or PR, I think his name is Shane, individuals putting out. It doesn't work because it didn't work in the trial. And to kind of, foist yourself up on this platform of Me Too and victims' rights, where it didn't work in the trial and it didn't work billions in TikTok or social media or anywhere in the public, is a huge mistake. But the biggest mistake is she may be defaming him again and subject to what she just went through. It's just,
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna file an appeal, I'm gonna file another lawsuit. Okay, you want to appeal this one? Well, there's 2 more that you got to face now for these other statements.
Exactly.
All right, I want to put up on the screen a big announcement today. A lot of people will be excited about it who became fans of Camille Vasquez. She's been promoted to partner at Brown Rudnick out in LA. Didn't take too long for that to happen. Kevin Goff, your thoughts, your reaction that Camille Vasquez, who became the breakout star because she's the one who cross-examined Amber Heard, has quickly been elevated by her law firm to partner after the verdict. Your reaction, Kevin Goff. He's speechless. The first time in the history of his life, Kevin Goff has ever been speechless. Rick King, your thoughts?
Listen, I thought she did a great job, and although I will say that if I wish at any time that I could get a week to prepare for a cross, I think I'd be great too. But she did a great job. That was just one portion of it. I think she was great throughout the entire trial and well deserved, and I'm very happy for her.
Yeah, and what does this do for a lawyer's career? Becoming partner in a big firm like that?
Well, I mean, but her just going to skyrocket beyond any partner. I mean, and she's phenomenal. I bet she was getting offers from all over the country, don't you think? I mean, they had to like, hey, we're going to make you partner right now, you know? Because when I looked her up and said associate, and you get on TikTok and all these people were posting just an associate, you know, it was kind of amazing. I mean, she's going to be a real role model for younger women coming to law school, for younger women that want to go to law school. She's just such a shining light. She did such a superb job. And the world is her oyster. She's an amazing lawyer. And I love seeing women lawyers like this do so beautifully.
Absolutely. Okay, I have a programming note to bring to everyone. Are you ready? Court TV's Chanley Painter will sit down one-on-one with Johnny Depp's attorney in his defamation case. Ben Chew, there he is. We'll bring it to you throughout the day on Wednesday. Then the entire interview will premiere Wednesday night. That's tomorrow, right? Tomorrow night, right here on Closing Arguments, Chanley Painter, Ben Chew, one-on-one. When we come back, talk about the next live trial here on Court TV out of Florida involving a man who married his stepdaughter. That man died. That stepdaughter/wife charged with his murder. We'll be right back.
I just thought when you were crying, like, court went bad or something.
Oh, I'm just sick of everything. Court is Monday, so that's why I'm calling somebody, a family member, because I also have a status hearing for Orange County on Wednesday. That's why I wanted to talk to Matt. I still never heard from Matt, so this was all a surprise. And they took my property in commissary, and one nice, they were going to throw it all out, so I started saying that my sister with 5 kids pays for it.
Danielle Redlick speaking with her sister, and all those phone calls are recorded, and it's Florida, so, you know, it's all part of the public record, and we're hearing some of them. This is a case where she is accused of murdering her husband, who used to be her stepfather, or maybe, I don't know if he's still her stepfather. I'm not sure how all that works. Anyway, Julia Janae has more for us as this trial gets ready for opening statements. She's down at the courthouse in Florida, where years ago, a young mother accused of murdering her daughter, Kaylee Marie, was found not guilty. Here's Julie Janae with more on Florida versus Danielle Redlick.
Vinnie, this is one of those cases that has a lot of winding details, twisting facts, and all of that is going to be on display in front of a jury very soon here at the downtown Orlando courthouse. What we've heard from today as far as the jury selection is that they have gotten to a pool of people that they want to give those jury selections, those general voir dire questions to. Now, Danielle Redlick, the woman on trial, she's been behind bars for 3 years now, and inside of this courtroom, she has looked a bit worn during the process. And one thing that she did want the judge to approve was allowing her to dye her hair for this trial, presumably to make it look more like it did back when this happened in 2019. But we believe that may have been denied by the judge since jury selection is already underway. But we have learned that Redlick is planning to take the stand in her own defense, and she would have to explain to this jury how her husband stabbed himself, rather than the way prosecutors allege that she was the one who did that stabbing. Now, she's also charged with not only that second-degree murder charge, but also tampering with evidence. And there may be an expert for the defense. There's been some argument inside of the courthouse about this, on whether or not that person can testify that the testosterone in a supplement that Michael Redlick, the victim in this case, was taking at the time, how it could have contributed to irrational behavior and could explain why the defense says he stabbed himself. What also could come up during the prosecution's case are jail calls between Redlick and her sister, like this one.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
Hello? Hey, Melanie.
Hey.
Calling them just to let you know, or people know I'm in Seminole Jail now, not Orange County.
Yeah, that's what it just said. So they did take you?
Yeah, they picked me up yesterday morning.
Are you okay?
No, I hate it here, but whatever.
Okay.
Tight quarters, not good. The food's better, but it sucks. I'm just sitting in my bunk crying my eyes out. I can think about it as a kid.
No, I know. I just thought when you were crying, like, court went bad or something.
Oh, I'm just sick of everything. Court is Monday, so that's why I'm calling somebody, a family member, because I also have a status hearing for Orange County on Wednesday. That's why I wanted to talk to Matt. I still never heard from Matt, so this was all a surprise. And they took my property in commissary, and one nice, they were going to throw it all out, so I started saying that my sister with 5 kids pays for it.
Now, the defense objected to some of those calls. The state said that they are relevant and should come in. The judge did say that most are admissible, but that some parts have to be redacted, like where Redlick says that she is weighing whether or not to take a plea deal in this case for a manslaughter charge that would carry a sentence of around 8 years. But a part that's going to remain in is where she says about this case, I'm dead in the water. All of that is going to unfold tomorrow. We expect that jury of 12 plus alternates is going to be seated by the afternoon, closely followed by opening statements. Vinny?
All right, Julia Janae down there in Orange County, Florida. Let's bring back in the think tank Kevin Goff and Bremner. Rick King still with us. Rick, I always do this to you because it always works out this way. Man marries his stepdaughter. It's Florida. That's where you live, your jurisdiction. How does the jury handle that fact? Do they hold it against the victim? Do they, I mean, I don't understand what the jury will do with that, but that's part of the case. She at one point was his stepdaughter. They got married, they raised a family and all, but there's still that strange fact in all of this.
Yeah, so how does the jury handle that?
The jury of Floridians.
I wish I had an idea of how to make that, as a defense lawyer, how to make that somehow palatable for anyone. I think they're going to handle it the same way that we're all handled, like, what? And so it's just a crazy fact, and it's just one of those things that happens here in Florida. I guess I thought that was relegated to other parts of the country, but apparently it's here in Florida too.
It's a Florida man. Kevin Goff, let me ask you, you've practiced law for so many years. Have you ever had a case where a man stabbed himself in the shoulder to death?
No. That feels like a pretty hard sell. I mean, you could understand someone stabbing themselves once, maybe for show or maybe for effect, but to kill yourself, maybe one lucky blow, maybe you could have a freak deal, but I don't know. The whole package sounds bizarre, that he literally stabbed himself to death, and it took 11 hours to notify the police, and it seems like a long shot defense. But maybe there's maybe there's a battered woman angle that's going to come out in the trial. And, you could see if in fact that was what was going on, where her reactions wouldn't be normal. But, I haven't really seen a lot of battered women defense talk in a number of years, but I guess maybe it's time to trot it out. I'm not sure what other defense there's going to be, because I just don't think accident's going to fly.
Yeah, Ann Bremner, this jury not being brought in from Pinellas County, okay, but stranger things have happened in this courthouse. I mean, anything is possible. But I think Kevin brings up a big point. I mean, that gap in time is another problem, and you seemingly have some level of an attempted cleanup. There might be some evidence of that. There's a bucket with some pink water in it. It looks like, but it wasn't a complete cleanup, so I don't know what that means. Like, if you're going to clean up a crime scene to cover something up, you clean up the whole thing. You don't do half a job and then call police. So either way it plays out, it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, and Vinnie, you and I were both at that courthouse for the woman who will remain nameless, who was accused of killing her child. And strange things have happened in that courthouse, but it had to be really strange, I think, for an acquittal to occur in this case. In waiting 11 hours, she said that he spit a hamburger at her. She got on the dating app, and I think returned messages on the dating app after he died. She waits 11 hours to report this thing, and she's kind of the merry widow on the phone with her sister. So, and then basically making admissions on the phone, jailhouse calls, which could almost be really, all know that they can report, most of them, unless you're talking about a plea deal, where she's basically saying she's dead in the water. The only thing I'm going to say to Rick on this is Washington State, my state, Rick, is kind of weird like your state. So I have some empathy, but we're both different sides, opposite sides of the country, but Washington State's had our share of interesting.
Okay. We're going to keep an eye on it. Looks like it could start up tomorrow. When we come back.
I think I'm frozen.
Okay, we'll get you. When we come back, things are moving awfully slow down in Florida in the jury selection for the Parkland shooter. We'll have an update on that. Don't go anywhere.
Sir, in case number 14129, to count 1 of the information, attempted aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer with a deadly weapon, how do you wish to plead?
I plead guilty.
Count 2, battery on a law enforcement officer, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
Count 3, depriving an officer means of protection, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
And count 4, attempted use of self-defense weapon against a law enforcement officer, how do you wish to plead, sir?
Guilty.
Also, are you agreeing that your credit for time served at this point is 1,068 days?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I accept your plea of guilty. I find that you are alert and intelligent, that you understand the nature of the charges, that you understand the consequences of entering into the plea. I find that you have made an informed decision with the advice of counsel, and that you're knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently waiving all of the rights that I just went over.
That was part of the plea for the Parkland school shooter, also pleaded guilty to 17 counts of murder. Now a jury must decide life or death for the Parkland school shooter. Jury selection underway down in Broward County, Florida. It's been going a little bit slow. Chanley Painter gives us the background on this case.
911, what is your emergency?
It's Valentine's Day 2018.
They believe there's a shooter at the school.
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School is under siege. An active shooter is terrorizing the campus. It was just a normal day at school that suddenly turned to a nightmare for the city of Parkland, Florida. The massacre marked the deadliest high school shooting in U.S. history. Surveillance video and witness identification led to the arrest of then 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz.
He was in my class in 7th grade, and I knew he wasn't okay when he punched the window in and said, "I'm going to cause karma one day," because he got in trouble with the teacher.
Cruz was a former student at the school. He'd been expelled the year before, in February 2017, for disciplinary reasons. But records indicate he was a troubled person long before the massacre.
He was a huge threat to the school because of his behavior. When he was suspended, they found shells of bullets in his backpack.
Just 40 days earlier, a woman who knew Cruz told the FBI he was collecting guns and ammunition and feared he was, quote, going to slip into a school and start shooting the place up. What's more, investigative reports point to years of a disturbing digital trail. Cruz reportedly researched mass shootings and posted threatening messages all over the internet. This one says, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter." In fact, it would be those very phone records as well as school surveillance video that would help authorities piece together what they say happened. A little after 2 p.m., Cruz took an Uber from his home to the school about 3 miles away. Security video shows a male wearing black jeans, maroon shirt, vest, and hat, carrying a large black bag, enter Building 12. In the first floor stairwell, he takes out an AR-15 rifle. Just then, a student walks in, sees the gun, and hurries out. At 2:21 p.m., school video shows the active shooter terrorizing all 3 floors of the freshman building, taking the lives of 14 teenagers and 3 adults. Alerted by a fire alarm and what sounded like gunshots, the school resource officer, the only other person armed with a weapon on campus, makes his way towards the building, but does not go in.
We started hearing more and more shots, so then everyone started running.
Minutes later, the shooting finally stops. The suspect drops the weapon and tactical gear, and authorities say he left campus, blending in to the crowd. Police hadn't even entered the building yet. At 3:36 p.m., more than an hour later, Cruz was stopped and arrested. Authorities interrogate Cruz and appear to secure a confession. He is charged with 17 counts of first-degree premeditated murder and 17 counts of attempted murder. During hours-long questioning, Cruz informs the detective he hears voices in his head that tell him to
burn, kill, destroy.
Cruz now faces the death penalty at trial.
I understand fully what you're saying.
Okay, are you having any trouble concentrating?
No.
Okay, and here's what's going on with the case. Jury selection been going on for 2 months now, and the latest development, There have been a couple of them, but one of them is that the public defenders representing the Parkland school shooter want to withdraw from the case because one member of their 5-member team right now is sick with COVID-19, and they're continuing with jury selection. Let's bring back in our think tank, still with us, Kevin Goff, Ann Bremner, and Rick King. Kevin, your thoughts. Is that a reason for these public defenders to get off the case because they're upset that one member of their 5-member team isn't there for jury selection because of COVID-19?
Well, you know, I could understand the skepticism, why you would need 5 lawyers to do this, particularly this phase of the trial, but it really depends on what the role of the lawyers is. And I understand this lawyer is a specialist in death penalty work. And you could understand if you really felt you had to have, I mean, a lot of times, no matter how many lawyers you have on a case, they divide up responsibilities, and you just can't flip on a dime and make major changes. So, you know, I think you've got to defer to defense counsel here when they're saying that they need to have this guy as part of the team for this phase. On the other hand, if jury selection's going for 2 or 3 weeks and the one lawyer is only going to be gone for a couple days, you know, you do have to question how big of an impact it has. And I don't know how they've been doing it, but, you know, a lot of times in jury selection, it's a very demanding process on the lawyers, oftentimes more demanding than trial. And oftentimes you switch back and forth between lawyers anyway. You know, the judge is in the best position to see what's actually going on. But, you know, you got to give this defense team credit now. They got moxie. And sometimes, you know, in this situation, it's all you got is to say you're just not going to go forward. And when the judge starts throwing out the Florida bar and all, you know, I've heard that. And, you know, in Georgia, it's 800-334-6865. You want to call the state bar? Go ahead. I'll give you my phone. You know, I think you got to give these lawyers credit for standing up for their client, particularly with public defenders. That's not guaranteed. You know, so these folks deserve credit.
Rick, your thoughts?
I totally agree with Kevin on this. I mean, I really have a lot of respect for those lawyers on there for standing up for their client. I think at one point they filed a motion to disqualify the judge, and I'm not convinced the judge is on firm ground by denying it. I think they have a difficult task ahead of them, and just as Kevin said, is that this particular lawyer they brought to the team because of his ability and his special skill set with picking a jury, and for the judge to arbitrarily decide that the client doesn't need this particular person, I don't think that's within the purview of the judge, and I think they should have the ability to say, Judge, we need to hold off until we can get our team back together. I think it's important.
Another motion filed, Ann Bremner, by the defense was to delay this trial indefinitely because of the May 24th school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. So they're saying, you know, with all of that, it's reopened some wounds and not going to be able to get a fair trial because of a crime that took place in another state. What do you think about that, Ann?
I mean, a lot of this to me is like from the sublime to the ridiculous. I mean, the fact is, how many shootings do we have over the weekend? How many mass shootings do we have in this country? They happen all the time. And to basically say that because other school shooting, he can't get a fair trial, I think is really ridiculous. And, you know, these delays and delays and delays in the case, you know, have to end. This is a very serious crime, one of the most tragic cases in our country. And justice needs to be served, and I think it needs to happen now.
We will continue to monitor it. It's been going on for a while now, and we'll see what happens with this latest slew of motions and jury selection. When we come back, time to hear from you, our 13th juror. I posted a video today from a surveillance video from a convenience store. It was an armed robbery, but the person in the video committing the armed robbery, 12 years old. What should happen to this 12-year-old? We'll show you the video and then get your verdict. back. I'm going to show you a video, surveillance video of a robbery at a convenience store. We've blurred the face of the person committing this robbery because the suspect is just 12 years old. Take a look.
Where you at? That it? All right, you go ahead and turn when you're ready.
Unbelievable. He's caught like a block away. But now the question is, what do you do with that 12-year-old? That was my 13th juror comment of the day. We begin with Melissa tonight, who says, he wants to act like a hoodlum and play with guns. He should be charged like an adult for armed robbery and discharging the weapon. No child sentence for him. He wants to act big and tough so he can take an adult punishment. Ann Bremner, 12 years old. What does our system do with a 12-year-old who does what he just did?
Usually keeps him in the juvenile system. I mean, it'd be so tough to get him what's called declined into the adult system at his age. I mean, there's no minimum age in his state for being charged with a crime. A lot of states, like mine, have a minimum age, but there isn't there. But the fact is, if you're going to put him in the adult system, then you have to balance out whether he would benefit from programs and resources of the juvenile justice system, or if he's basically someone you just want to throw away and put him in the adult system. They can hold him until he's 21 if he's convicted, not 18 when he becomes the age of majority. But the fact of the matter is 12 is awfully young to try somebody as an adult. I don't know if that's happened before. I used to handle a lot of these cases with the federal grant for violent and chronic juvenile offenders. A lot of my kids were tried as adults, but they were older. They were homicide.
Unbelievable. It's still, every time I watch this, I can't believe what we're watching. Valerie tonight, wow, seems like it's not shocking anymore. These young juvenile offenders are getting more brazen every day. I do believe discipline and supervision starts at home. They need to be sent to adult jails until court instead of being released back to parents where there is no punishment or consequences for their actions. Rick King, not just an attorney, former police lieutenant, your thoughts about a 12-year-old like this?
Ann said the operative words that I'm going to talk about right now. She said, do we just throw them away? And I just have intrinsically, even as a former law enforcement officer, now a criminal defense lawyer, intrinsically, I have a problem with throwing kids away or throwing people away in general. I think as a society, we become too comfortable with just throwing people away. The kid's 12 years old. There's something, hopefully, I'd like to believe that he hasn't been really indoctrinated into the system so far. And she also talked about services. This kid is in dire need of counseling services. And of course, he needs some punishment for what he did. But I think services for rehabilitation to try to make this kid some sort of contributing member of society at the age of 12, I think we have time.
Sharon tonight with a, what she calls an unpopular comment. This won't be a popular comment, but how did a 12-year-old get his hands on a gun? Why is it so easy to buy guns in the USA? Young children being murdered in schools. When will enough be enough for proper gun control? Kevin Goff, taking a look here, 12-year-old firing that weapon, committing armed robbery. What do we do with him?
From what I see, I don't see any reason why you prosecute him as an adult. First of all, it doesn't, for example, it doesn't look gang-related. I mean, he looks like a gang of one, and the gang that couldn't shoot straight at that. Second, you can see he doesn't even know how to handle the firearm. It doesn't mean that tragedy couldn't have happened here. But when you look at him and you look at incarcerating him for 80-plus years at $50,000 or more a year, putting aside the tragedy of losing this life so young, effectively, I mean, society can't afford to be locking every stupid child up for 80 years. We just can't afford it. We'll go broke. And, you know, it's nice to talk about gun control, but kids are incredibly creative. You know, kids get the keys to their parents' cars and they go out and do stuff. They get into stuff at school that they're not supposed to get into. Hell, I had a friend hacked into the school's computer system and was changing people's grades back before I even knew that was a thing. You know, so kids are kids. They do stupid things. That's why we have juvenile courts. Now, if there's something particular about this kid where, you know, he's the spawn of Satan, you know, then presumably the juvenile court judge is going to be able to see that. But from what we see here, he just looks like a stupid kid having a bad day. And it's not worth millions of dollars and spoiling his life to prosecute him as an adult. Politics is the only reason to treat this kid as an adult.
Here he goes one more time, making sure that the clerk knows he's serious. Because she asked him, are you serious? That's when he fired the weapon, took the money, got arrested. Kevin Goff, Ann Bremner, Rick King, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time, your insight, your expertise. I know it's valuable, your time. And we'll see you again really, really soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, folks, when we come back, need your help. We've got a missing child. I've got a photo and some information. Coming up.
There's cash back in everything you buy.
Welcome back. Before we go tonight, I have a photo to show you of a missing child. His name is David Lucero. He is missing out of Pueblo, Colorado since May 23rd. He's 14 years old. If you see him, please call the Pueblo Police Department or 1-800-THE-LOST. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Vinnie Politan. As always, have a great night, and please don't forget the kids.
This program is based upon a true story and contains reenactments. Portions of this program may be disturbing to audience members. Viewer discretion is advised.
Up next, a family vacation turns into a nightmare.
That's when I seen the body of a female lying face down in the water.
And possible clues provide more questions than answers.
Either it was an accident